Long before hospitals, there were gods who healed with plants, spirit, and power. In Africa, medicine was divine, and miracles weren't rare. These healing deities didn't just treat sickness, they rewrote destiny. The very foundations of African medicine were rooted in the belief that the physical and spiritual realms were deeply interconnected. It wasn't just about treating the body, it was about restoring balance to the soul, mind, and spirit. The gods and goddesses of African traditions were more than just distant figures in stories. They were active participants in the lives of their people, capable of influencing everything from the crops they harvested to the health of their bodies. But what if some of the answers to the world's most ancient medical mysteries lie within the divine wisdom and power of these African gods? What if the miracles, so often told through myth and legend, are more than just stories? Could it be that the ancient African belief in healing gods, their sacred rituals, and the medicine they prescribed hold the key to unlocking medical secrets still unknown to modern science? This video takes us on a journey into the heart of Africa's healing traditions, where medicine and spirituality exist in an intricate dance, and where gods of health and vitality were believed to be the bridge between life and death. Across the continent, diverse cultures turned to their deities for physical and spiritual healing, trusting that their gods held the power to cure ailments, dispel evil, and perform feats of miraculous recovery. The connection between gods and healing wasn't limited to temples or shrines. It was woven into the everyday life of many African communities, with rituals, ceremonies, and offerings that transcended the material world. Today, many of these traditions still thrive, deeply ingrained in African culture. From the lush rainforests of the Congo to the vast deserts of the Sahara, African medicine continues to be shaped by divine forces. The question remains, could these ancient practices hold the key to revolutionizing our modern understanding of medicine and healing? Let's explore the world of African gods of medicine and miracle cures, and uncover how their influence continues to resonate across generations. African healing traditions are as diverse and rich as the continent itself. Across the vast expanse of Africa, from the savannas to the dense forests, and from the highlands to the coastal regions, indigenous people have long relied on the deep connection between spirituality and medicine to guide them through the challenges of illness, injury, and spiritual disquiet. These healing practices were not only concerned with physical ailments, but with the entire person, mind, body, and spirit. The understanding that health is a holistic state, influenced by both the physical world and unseen forces, has shaped the way African societies approach healing. Historically, healing in Africa was the domain of spiritual leaders, traditional healers, and herbalists. These practitioners often worked in tandem with local communities using a combination of medicinal plants, spiritual rituals, and divine intervention to treat their patients. One of the most common practices was the use of herbal medicine, which involved the gathering of plants, roots, and herbs with healing properties. Indigenous knowledge passed down through generations ensured that these remedies were both effective and sacred. Each plant, leaf, or bark had its own specific healing power, and traditional healers possessed the wisdom to use them appropriately for physical, emotional, and even spiritual ailments. These remedies were frequently used in conjunction with spiritual practices, such as offerings, prayers, and sacrifices to the gods, ensuring that the healing was not just physical, but also aligned with the spirit. The role of the healer in many African communities went beyond that of a mere doctor. These individuals were also spiritual guides, bridging the gap between the human and divine worlds. For instance, in many African cultures, illness was not always seen as a random physical occurrence. It was often thought to have spiritual causes, such as the anger of ancestors, the influence of evil spirits or the imbalance of the elements in a person's life. Thus, healing became a sacred act that addressed the body, mind, and spirit. Healers would consult ancestral spirits, the gods, and divinities for guidance in diagnosing and treating patients. Rituals and ceremonies were performed to appease the spirits and restore balance, reinforcing the belief that medicine was not just a science, but a spiritual endeavor that required divine favor. Throughout Africa, the link between medicine and spirituality can be seen in the variety of deities associated with healing. These gods and goddesses were not just symbols of power, but were believed to embody the very forces that governed health and well-being. In ancient Egypt, for example, the goddess Sekhmet was both a goddess of war and healing. She was called upon in times of plague and disease, believed to have the power to both inflict and heal illness. Similarly, in the Yoruba religion, the god Ogun, originally the god of iron and war, is also revered as a god of healing. His followers turn to him for help in curing injuries, diseases, and for spiritual strength. The close relationship between gods and healing in these cultures underscores the intertwined nature of the spiritual and physical realms. Moreover, African communities often viewed illness as a disruption in the natural order, and healing was seen as a way of restoring that balance. For example, many West African spiritual practices emphasized the importance of maintaining harmony with nature, with the physical world reflecting the inner spiritual state of the individual. When someone fell ill, it wasn't just their body that was out of balance. Their connection to nature, ancestors, and spiritual entities might have been disturbed. Healing, therefore, required more than just medicine. It involved rituals to restore the flow of spiritual energy, invoking the divine to heal not only the physical body but also the spiritual essence of the person. In various parts of Africa, divination played an integral role in healing practices. A healer might consult a diviner to determine the underlying cause of an illness, seeking to uncover spiritual forces at play. These divinations were often carried out using sacred objects such as cowrie shells, bones, or specially prepared stones. The diviner's role was to communicate with the spirit world to guide the healer in selecting the right treatment or ritual. This practice highlights the belief that healing was not just a medical procedure, but a spiritual process that required a deep understanding of the unseen world. One of the key elements of African healing traditions is the deep respect for ancestors. In many cultures, it is believed that the ancestors will remain close to the living, watching over them and influencing their lives. If an individual fell ill, it was often thought that their ancestors were either displeased or in need of recognition. Thus, healing rituals often involved offerings to ancestors, prayers, and ceremonies to invite the blessings and restore health. This connection to the past through the ancestors allowed the sick to seek help from those who had lived before them, believing that the wisdom and power of the ancestors could aid in their recovery. In modern times, while Western medicine has become the dominant form of healthcare across much of Africa, traditional healing methods continue to hold an important place. Many African communities still turn to their spiritual practices for healing, combining them with modern treatments. There is also a growing global interest in African healing practices as people look to reconnect with the wisdom of indigenous cultures. The integration of ancient traditions with modern knowledge offers a powerful example of how healing can transcend the boundaries between physical and spiritual well-being, offering a more holistic approach to health that considers both the material and immaterial aspects of life. In African mythology, the gods and goddesses play an essential role in shaping the lives of humans, especially when it comes to matters of health and healing. The African pantheon is rich and varied, with deities representing everything from the forces of nature to the more specific aspects of human life. Among the many divine figures in African traditions, a significant number are associated with medicine, healing, and miraculous cures. These gods are often seen as guardians of health, both physical and spiritual, and their influence extends beyond the realms of the supernatural to affect the daily lives of those who seek their aid. They embody not just power, but wisdom, fertility, protection, and balance, all of which are key to maintaining health in the African worldview. One of the most prominent healing deities in African mythology is Asaseya, the Ghanaian goddess of fertility and health. Asaseya is revered as the earth goddess, representing the nurturing aspects of the earth and its vital role in sustaining human life. In many African communities, it is believed that she has the power to bring life and, by extension, health to those who honor her. Asaseya is intimately tied to the land, and it is through her blessings that crops grow, animals thrive, and people remain healthy. In Ghanaian tradition, people believe that illnesses or misfortunes are often tied to a disharmony between humans and nature, and Asaseya's healing powers are called upon to restore that balance. Her followers often engage in rituals that involve offerings of food, particularly grains and fruits, which are considered sacred and are meant to appease her spirit and ensure her continued favor. Asaseya's healing influence extends to both physical ailments and emotional disturbances. In the face of illness, the earth goddess is thought to provide the power to cure and restore health through her connection to the land, plants, and the cycles of life. The people of Ghana, and indeed many parts of West Africa, understand that by respecting Asaseya, they can benefit from her protection and healing abilities. To seek her intervention is to align oneself with the rhythms of the earth, ensuring that one's body remains in harmony with the natural world. Another powerful deity associated with medicine is Ogun, the Yoruba god of iron, war, and healing. Ogun, who originates from the Yoruba people of Nigeria, is one of the most widely worshipped and respected deities in African spirituality. He is known as a powerful force of creation and transformation, capable of shaping the world with his immense strength. The Ogun is often associated with warfare and iron, symbolizing strength, resilience, and the forging of tools. He is equally revered as a deity of healing, particularly for ailments related to physical trauma. For instance, when someone suffers from wounds or injuries, Ogun is invoked to bring healing and fortitude. His deep connection to iron makes him the patron god of blacksmiths and healers, and his followers often believe that the strength of iron, combined with Ogun's divine power, can aid in the healing of injuries and diseases. The god Ogun is also associated with mental and spiritual healing. His followers believe that Ogun has the ability to cut through the spiritual blockages or negative energies that might be causing harm to a person's mental state. As a deity of transformation, Ogun's power is thought to transcend physical healing, offering a pathway to spiritual liberation and clarity. In many Yoruba communities, Ogun is invoked during ceremonies and rituals to cure mental illnesses or to provide guidance for individuals undergoing periods of intense emotional or spiritual struggle. His followers perform offerings of food, especially dishes made from iron, to appease him and call upon his healing powers. Beyond Ogun and Asaseya, Bunjil is another significant deity with healing attributes. Though his origins are less well known compared to Ogun or Asaseya, Bunjil is revered in certain African spiritual traditions, particularly among the Aboriginal communities of the southern parts of the continent. Bunjil is the creator god and healer, associated with the renewal of life and the restoration of harmony within the natural world. He is often depicted as a great eagle, soaring high above the earth, watching over the land and its inhabitants. His presence is believed to ensure that the cycles of life, birth, death, and rebirth remain balanced, and his role as a healer is critical in maintaining that balance. Bunjil is considered a powerful force for physical and spiritual healing, and his influence extends far beyond the realm of medicine. In many African traditions, It is believed that he has the ability to cure ailments through the act of spiritual cleansing, often symbolized by the cleansing winds he commands as an eagle. His intervention is sought by those who are suffering from diseases that affect not just the body, but the soul. In stories of miraculous cures, Bunjel's role as a healer often centers around the restoration of balance in the lives of the afflicted, helping to remove negative spiritual forces and bringing about the healing process. The role of African gods in healing goes beyond simply providing cures for physical ailments. They are also integral in ensuring the spiritual well-being of individuals and communities. These gods intervene in the lives of humans, offering both physical and spiritual cures when their followers are in need. Whether it's Ogun's power to heal wounds and give strength, Asazaye's ability to restore balance through the earth, or Bunjel's spiritual cleansing, these deities are seen as active participants in the healing process, guiding individuals toward recovery, not only in body, but also in spirit. Miracles and cures attributed to these deities are central to African healing practices. In many African communities, it is believed that when an individual is healed through the intervention of the gods, it is not a mere coincidence or the result of modern medicine alone. It is seen as a divine act, a miracle that transcends the limitations of the physical world. Stories of miraculous recoveries from terminal illnesses, spiritual afflictions, or even from the brink of death are often recounted with reverence. These miracles are thought to affirm the power of the gods and demonstrate their active role in human affairs. Moreover, the involvement of gods in the healing process often underscores the belief that illness is not just a physical occurrence, but a spiritual one. When people suffer, it is believed that their spirit is out of alignment, and only through divine intervention can true healing occur. The gods, through their divine knowledge and power, are seen as capable of restoring harmony to the soul, body, and mind. And in doing so, they bring about miraculous cures that are often beyond the reach of human understanding. The divine intervention of these gods is deeply ingrained in the cultural practices of African communities. From healing ceremonies led by spiritual leaders to the invocation of the gods in times of illness, these deities remain central to the belief systems of millions. Their role as healers and miracle workers continues to shape the way health and medicine are viewed in many parts of Africa, as they are seen not only as divine figures, but as active participants in the ongoing balance between the human and spiritual realms. Whether through the invocation of Ogun for physical strength, Asaseya for fertility and balance, or Bunjil for spiritual restoration, these gods remain a powerful force in the ongoing healing traditions of African culture. Miracle cures and healing rituals are deeply embedded in African spirituality, with numerous stories and traditions that illustrate the powerful connection between the divine and human health. Throughout African history, both ancient and contemporary, people have looked to their gods and ancestors for help in overcoming physical ailments, emotional turmoil, and spiritual disarray. These miraculous cures are not just a matter of chance, but are seen as divine interventions, affirming the belief that the gods are actively involved in human lives. Whether it's the restoration of sight to the blind, the healing of a deadly disease, or the resolution of long-standing spiritual afflictions, miracles in African spirituality are considered a testament to the power and presence of the divine. One of the most powerful and enduring stories of miracle cures comes from the traditions of the Yoruba people in West Africa. In Yoruba spirituality, there are numerous accounts of miraculous healing through the intervention of their gods, particularly through the Orisha, spirits or deities associated with healing. One such story involves Obatala, the Orisha of wisdom, purity, and healing. According to Yoruba lore, Obatala was believed to have the ability to cure not only physical ailments, but also mental illnesses. A famous tale recounts how a young man, severely afflicted by an unknown illness that no doctor could cure, sought the aid of Obatala. After performing a special healing ritual, Obatala appeared in the form of a wise elder and instructed the young man on how to restore balance to his body and soul. The young man followed the divine guidance and he was miraculously healed. This story is just one example of how miraculous cures are attributed to the divine intervention of African gods. Similarly, in the kingdom of Dahomey, which was located in what is now Benin, the power of the gods to cure diseases was central to the spiritual life of the people. In ancient times, the people believed that their king had a direct line to the gods, and through him, they could access divine healing. One notable story from this kingdom involves the god Dan of the Fon people, who was said to have the power to heal those suffering from infertility. Women who were unable to conceive would visit the shrines dedicated to Dan, where they would receive special herbal remedies and participate in rituals intended to invoke his blessings. Many of these women reported miraculous pregnancies after the rituals, leading to the belief that Dan's divine intervention was directly responsible for their healing. In more recent times, miracle cures continue to be reported across African communities. One contemporary example comes from South Africa, where individuals suffering from HIV/AIDS have claimed to experience healing through the intervention of spiritual leaders. While modern medicine has made strides in controlling the spread of HIV, many people in rural areas still rely on traditional healers for treatment. Some claim that through sacred rituals, prayers, and offerings to the gods, they have been miraculously cured of the disease. In such cases, the healing is often attributed to the intervention of both ancestral spirits and the gods, who are believed to bring health and well-being to their followers. These modern-day miracle cures highlight the continued belief in the divine's power to heal and restore balance. Healing rituals at the core of many African healing practices play a pivotal role in these miraculous cures. The use of sacred plants, spiritual guidance, and ritual acts are not just forms of medicine, but are considered acts of divine connection. Sacred plants are central to these practices, with each plant believed to possess specific healing powers. For example, the moringa tree, which is found across Africa, is known for its medicinal properties, often used to treat conditions like malnutrition, fever, and infections. It is believed that the tree's leaves, bark, and seeds contain powerful spiritual energy, and the rituals surrounding its use involve not only physical healing but also spiritual purification. In many African cultures, sacred plants are gathered by traditional healers who have been trained in the ancient practices passed down through generations. These healers, often known as sangomas in South Africa or babalawos among the Yoruba people, perform rituals that blend herbal medicine with spiritual practices. For example, in some parts of West Africa, healers combine plant-based remedies with divination techniques to diagnose the root cause of an illness. Healing is not seen as simply curing a physical ailment, but as addressing the spiritual disharmony that may have caused it. Rituals involving dancing, chanting, and the invocation of ancestral spirits are common, creating an environment where the divine can intervene to restore balance to the individual. Another important ritual involves the use of sacred fire. In several African spiritual traditions, fire is considered a purifying element that can cleanse both the body and the spirit. During certain healing ceremonies, sacred fires are lit and offerings are made to the gods, who are believed to accept the gifts and in return bring healing to the afflicted. The act of burning offerings, such as herbs, animal sacrifices, or symbolic items, represents a release of negative energies and allows for spiritual renewal. This ritual also emphasizes the role of fire as a transformative agent, capable of both destruction and healing. The connection to ancestors plays an integral role in these healing rituals. Ancestral veneration is a cornerstone of African spirituality, and ancestors are seen as the guardians of wisdom and the key to understanding the mysteries of life and death. In African healing traditions, it is believed that ancestors continue to influence the lives of the living, offering guidance and protection. Healing rituals often involve invoking the spirits of ancestors, seeking their blessings, and requesting their aid in healing. For example, during illness, a person might consult a healer who performs a ritual to communicate with the ancestors, asking them to intercede on behalf of the sick individual. This connection to the past is not just a form of respect, it is a belief in the power of ancestral wisdom to provide the necessary knowledge for healing. In some African communities, the concept of ancestral spirits is so vital that it is believed that illness can be a sign that the ancestors are angry or displeased. In such cases, healing rituals often involve appeasing the spirits through offerings and prayers, restoring balance between the living and the ancestral realm. The relevance of African healing gods and traditional medicine continues to thrive in the modern era, despite the growing dominance of Western medicine. African healing practices, deeply rooted in spirituality, have not only endured, but have also evolved, adapting to the needs and challenges of contemporary societies. From rural villages to urban centers, the influence of traditional healers and the gods they invoke remains strong, reflecting a cultural continuity that has persisted for centuries. The enduring importance of these practices in modern African societies demonstrates how the integration of spirituality and medicine is not just a relic of the past, but a living tradition that continues to guide health and wellness. In many African communities today, traditional healers are still highly regarded as the primary caregivers, especially in rural areas where access to modern healthcare can be limited. These healers are often seen as the intermediaries between the physical world and the divine, offering remedies not just for physical ailments but also for spiritual and emotional issues. In countries like Nigeria, South Africa, and Ghana, the role of the Sangoma, Babalawo or medicine man remains central to community health. These practitioners are deeply embedded in the cultural fabric of society, offering personalized healing rituals that honor the ancestral spirits and the gods. Even in urban centers where modern hospitals and clinics are more accessible, many people continue to seek out traditional healers for ailments that Western medicine cannot cure or for spiritual guidance. In this sense, African traditional medicine has not disappeared. It has adapted, coexisting with and complementing Western medical practices. Moreover, the practices associated with African healing gods have been passed down through generations, ensuring that these traditions are not lost to time. While some elements of traditional medicine have been modified or modernized, the core belief that health is a spiritual and physical balance remains unchanged. Healing rituals, sacred plant usage, and ancestral worship continue to be practiced in communities across Africa, and the gods invoked during these rituals, whether Asaseya, Ogun, or Bunjil, remain revered figures. The fact that these practices continue to hold significance in contemporary African societies attests to the enduring cultural relevance. For many, these gods represent a direct connection to the past, offering healing not just from illness but from the disconnection that may have arisen from colonial histories or modern life. The global interest in African traditional healing methods has also grown significantly in recent years. As the world becomes more attuned to alternative and holistic forms of medicine, African healing practices have gained recognition for their ability to treat both the body and the spirit. Herbal medicine, in particular, has attracted attention from scientists and healthcare practitioners seeking new treatments for a variety of ailments. Many plants used in African traditional medicine, such as moringa, baobab, and hibiscus, have been found to have medicinal properties that are now being explored in the global pharmaceutical industry. Researchers are investigating the potential of these plants in the treatment of the diseases such as cancer, hypertension, diabetes, and malaria. The widespread availability of these plants, coupled with increasing scientific interest, has brought African healing methods into the mainstream, contributing to a broader conversation about the intersection of traditional and modern medicine. In the field of alternative medicine, African spiritual healing practices are also gaining traction. Practices such as energy healing, ritual cleansing, and divination are becoming more accepted as complementary treatments in many parts of the world. People who feel disconnected from conventional medical systems or are dissatisfied with the side effects of pharmaceutical drugs are turning to African healing methods for alternative solutions. These practices emphasize holistic health, where mental, physical, and spiritual well-being are all considered in the healing process. The belief that illness arises from an imbalance between the individual and the spiritual world resonates with people worldwide, particularly in cultures that value natural remedies and alternative approaches to health. As a result, African gods of healing are being recognized not only within African communities, but also by a growing global audience seeking more inclusive, spiritually grounded approaches to health. In Africa, the role of traditional healers and the gods they invoke is no longer seen as something archaic or obsolete. Rather, it is seen as an essential part of the continent's cultural heritage and a vital resource for modern wellness. African traditional medicine has, in many ways, emerged from the shadows of Western healthcare, finding its place in a global conversation about health, spirituality, and healing. As the world grapples with challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, environmental destruction, and mental health crisis, the holistic, spiritually grounded approach to medicine offered by African traditions is gaining increasing recognition and respect. The gods who once healed the sick in ancient times continue to influence the way people understand health today, proving that these practices rooted in the earth and the divine are as relevant as ever in the modern world. The healing practices connected to these gods have not remained stagnant. Over time, they have adapted to the modern world, blending traditional knowledge with contemporary needs. Traditional healers today still invoke the powers of these deities, using herbal remedies, sacred rituals, and ancestral wisdom to restore balance and health. Whether through the use of plants like moringa or baobab, or through spiritual rituals that call upon gods like Ogun and Asaseya, these traditions have maintained their importance and relevance in both rural and urban African societies. Modern-day healers continue to honor these deities, maintaining a bridge between the past and the present, proving that ancient healing practices still have a significant place in today's world. Moreover, the global interest in alternative medicine has shed light on African healing methods, with many people around the world seeking out the wisdom of these ancient traditions. As the world turns to more holistic, natural, and spiritual forms of healing, African gods and their associated practices have found a place in global conversations about health and wellness. The power of these gods to heal, both physically and spiritually, resonates beyond African communities, influencing everything from herbal medicine to contemporary healing practices. The continued relevance of these healing gods speaks to their enduring power and influence in a world increasingly seeking balance and wholeness. But the question remains, could these ancient gods hold the key to miracles in modern medicine? As science continues to explore the potential of plants and spiritual practices, we may find that the wisdom of African gods and their connection to healing is more relevant today than ever before. Their stories, rituals, and practices offer more than just medical insight. They remind us of the interconnectedness of body, mind, and spirit, suggesting that perhaps modern medicine could benefit from considering the lessons these ancient gods have to offer. If you found this exploration into African gods and their healing practices fascinating, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more content on African mythology, culture, and the powerful spiritual traditions that have shaped the world we live in today. Like this video if you enjoyed learning about these ancient practices and want to delve deeper into other fascinating aspects of African heritage. Join us as we continue to explore the rich history and enduring legacy of African spiritual practices and their profound influence on our understanding of healing, wellness, and the mysteries of the human experience.